Hello from Pocatello, Idaho. This is my first time in Idaho, and we have boondocked outside of the Museum of Clean. I have no idea what to expect from this space. So we're going to be heading in about 10 o'clock Mountain Time to check it out. I don't know if it's like a museum of cleaning products or what, but as we've toured the country, I like to say we're looking for three things. We're looking for experts, variety of areas. We're looking to talk to everyday Americans, and we're also looking for the inspirational, unusual, and interesting. Hello, Dad. We have another something. There's major feedback on your side. Wait,
Again?
yeah, it's always with your connection. Try twisting your earphones. Like is
That help at
yeah,
all?
yeah, that helps a little bit. We should maybe test some earphones for you.
I'm gonna get some new ones. You know,
Okay, good.
you pull on them, and you never know if you break a wire or something like that. So anyhow,
So have you heard the news?
which news are we talking about? The article?
Yes, I was named
Yes,
best credentialed
yes,
of the minor candidates, which I, want to talk a little bit about to start off because this is so exciting. A lot of people don't realize we have thousands of people that will run for president in our country for
right.
a variety of reasons, right? Some people will run because they're an activist and they really want a specific issue to be heard. Some people will make fun of the system, and they'll run as Santa Claus or something. And
Cocaine.
then yeah, yeah. And then there will be people like me who have the ability to do this job, but who have not served in the legislative branch. In other words, we haven't been on stage talking to the reporters. We've been serving in the shadows, right? Head
Right.
down, getting the work done. So to be noted as the top of that group, it's kind of like being called out as a superstar in the minor leagues,
Yeah,
and that's pretty exciting.
I thought it was. I didn't get a whole lot of time. I was driving when I saw it come up, so I'm going to spend some time reading it. But I did catch the one about somebody listed as cocaine, so I thought that was pretty stupid. But anyhow, that's
Well, they have to
America.
make, yeah, they have to make them funny, right? I mean, that's part
Exactly.
of the job
Yeah.
is to make the article somewhat humorous, and of course, that's what they lead with is a humorous story. But I'm the counter to that, the serious
Yeah.
consideration and question.
Yeah. I thought that was in a scan and a quick read. It was. Yeah, I thought it was really great that that was the acknowledgement that you were the most credentialed and the best qualified. So that was great.
Well, and
It's
I
the
and I think
next step.
that yeah, I mean, this is the question for politics in general is, um, are we looking at credentials or are we looking at fundraising?
Well, I think that's been your battle all along. I mean, I think
Right.
that's the core problem is that we seem to would rather show up at the circus in a tent rather than go out there and actually understand what's going on. So, fortunately,
Well,
there
that
are
said,
some.
we are going to do a circus segment. It's being planned. Pol- Politics in the three ring circus. No, really, we're going to Las Vegas in a month, and we
Okay,
are really going to do a full YouTube story on this. We are circulating people at the Cirque du Soleil circus, and we're going to do a
great,
piece on it.
great.
So it is fun, but there's reality to it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to drain our time with a lot of stuff, but there are serious issues, and there's a lot of concerns from the country. And I think, last but not least, it's been great. The people who have met you now are starting to follow and starting to gather speed and time and everything like that. And really, hats off to all the people that have taken time to meet with you and share their piece and story on expertise or whatever in general. I mean, going all the way from top to bottom, you reference Bowling Green on a regular basis, and that really bodes well for them. I think they've been a model you've really looked at, and immense, incredible.
I'm very picky, and so when I see something that works, I
Hmm.
think we need to elevate it, and we need to showcase it. And it's kind of an interesting story because of kind of the irony that I wasn't sure what I was going to walk into there, and
Hmm.
it turned out that I found gold,
Right.
right? And I think this is it speaks to a larger storyline, which is that if all you're doing is going into cities and speaking, you're not listening, and you're not finding that gold.
Right. And that's what we're even talking about when we're starting to talk about our subject today, which is education. Um, and, you know, is the public sector or the public schools able to keep pace under the conditions that they're working in? And that's a tough subject. And I know that's one of yours that you hold dearly to your heart. Even wrote a book about it. So it's it's really important. Share some comments about that subject. I mean, we might as well move on. Share some comments about that because I think it's really a core value in your whole process here. So go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying education is the foundation of everything, right? So if we don't have well-educated Americans, we don't have the ability to compete lifelong or globally, and certainly not in the digital age or with automation coming. So this has to be important because of the outcomes that it affects. So the question on the table that you posed is, are we ready? And I'm going to try and unhook this. It is still loud. There's still a feedback.
Let me undo mine.
Try unhooking yours.
How's that? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
But then I get an echo.
Yeah,
plug it
that's
in.
what I thought. So, we'll anyhow, we'll work with what we have right now. So, okay,
There you
go
go.
ahead.
Did you plug it back in?
No.
You have to plug it back in.
Okay.
It echoes.
We'll just- It just echoes too much. Okay. Let me get my stuff ready to go here. We'll have to stay a little longer on air.
Technical realities.
How's that?
Much
Any
better.
better? Is it?
Yes, much better. Yeah,
Okay.
I might even be able to plug in as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear myself thinking. That was where it was getting too difficult.
Okay.
All right, that's a lot better, even though it's still there some.
Okay.
But so going back, all right, are we ready today, and will we be ready tomorrow?
Right.
The short answer is no, we are not ready today. However, the great answer is that we are capable and ready to be ready for tomorrow. And what do I mean by that? One of the tasks that I had to do in government was to go out into the country, across the entire nation, and to talk with the leaders in education. So these are going to be your K-12 teachers. This is going to be your union. This is going to be your higher ed folks, both professors as well as leadership. It's going to be looking at U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Department of Labor, Department of Defense, Department of Education. So this is the gamut, right? Lifelong learning. What I was looking for is, number one, are you ready to evolve? And number two, do you know how to do it? And what I was surprised by was that across the board, 100%, people said, yes, they are ready to evolve. And two, they know what they need to do, but they also recognize they can't do it alone. What this means is that it is a requirement that the federal government get involved to help with that evolution. Because no single state and no single community and no single teacher would be able to create that change on their own. And so what we look for is, do we have the finances available from government as well as external programs to be able to make that change? And the answer to that is also yes.
Wow. Where would that be coming from?
So this is a great question. Actually, again, as I talk about larger storylines, this is something that can be replicated, if you will. The assumption always, and you hear it on stage from every candidate, we're going to make change X, and it's going to cost this many billions or trillions of dollars. And the reason that is said is because there's an assumption that you always have to ask Congress for the money. What we did is, instead of asking Congress for the money, we went out into the community and asked for the community for money. So there are a number of nonprofit organizations that are funded by very wealthy individuals or communities or entities, and they are committed to helping with a variety of social change efforts. It might be the environment, it might be healthcare, it might be education, but they don't always know where to spend the money, and they don't always have a pot to cover everything. So what you have to do from the federal perspective is connect the dots, right? Figure out which communities need the help, figure out what that help needs to be, and then find the people or entities that will help fund it. And we were able to create a blueprint that would require no additional dollars from the federal government. It was financed, frankly, it was basically my job and a few hours of a couple of other people's time for maybe 6 months. I mean, so you're talking under 100K. Came out of defense instead of education. And the Blueprint Forward requires only facilitation from the government, not direct involvement. It allows communities to lead their efforts. It allows those who have the finances to help fund them. And it allows the country to work as a facilitated evolution process. It's pretty elegant.
Yeah. Well, I think what it does is indicates exactly what how most problems get solved and how most problems fail. Okay, the fact
Right.
is there's not a coordinated effort where there's someone or something that's actually what you say is connecting the dots, making certain that each one of them do what they're supposed to be doing, and they're coordinated and informed. One of the things that when I used to interview management, there was two words that I always wanted to hear when I asked them questions, and what they did was listen and communicate. If I did not hear those two words in the interview, I did not hire that candidate, because simply said, if you can't listen and you don't communicate well, you're not going to be a good manager. You're not going to be able to motivate people. You're not going to be able to stimulate, outcomes. You're not going to be able to do any of that kind of stuff. So the fact is, those are the credentials that are necessary for this to happen. And what you're indicating is that the role of the government is not to facilitate everything, but it's that coordinated effort and be the referee and everything to get it all done, rather than sit down and indicate that they're the ones that are going to actually do the job. That's not where it's going to come from. It's got to come from the communities. It's got to come from the organizations within that community, your teachers, your school boards, your folks within those communities. So I pray that we can keep going and step this up, because like you said, it's in almost every discussion we've had, doesn't matter which one it is that
Right.
if we don't coordinate this and get it done, we're going to have a long road to hoe here in the future.
Yeah, it's about facilitation, not regulation, right?
Right.
And I, as people ask me, kind of, what do you see across the country? And I see a couple of things. And one of them very strongly is fear. Fear that one regulation is going to lead to another, is going to lead to another, is going to lead to another, and they don't know where it's going to end, and they don't trust anymore that it ever will end. And that lack of trust is incredibly important, because it results in a lot of fighting in our country. When we talk about education, Department of Ed right now is focused on a business model. And as I once said at a defense meeting, as we were trying to consolidate for the same business reasons, I said, do we want to have the lowest cost technically acceptable force or the most effective one? And that was a meeting stopper. People paused for a minute. We'd kind of gotten off of the focus of mission success and gotten focused instead on reducing cost, but at the real human cost of our defense capabilities. And certainly we're hearing a lot about that coming out of General Dunford and some others. It's the same thing in education. Certainly you do have to think about the business case, and we do have to think about innovation and new and better ways to be effective with our money. That said, when that becomes the mission goal, a financial reduction, an offload from the federal perspective, a lack of strategy across the nation, what effectively ends up happening is that you end up with the lowest cost technically acceptable outcome, but one that doesn't prepare our people for the future. And what that looks like in the future is a disastrous divide. We are not going to be stopping at age 18 for school. We're not going to be stopping at age 22 for school. You're going to see as many 50-year-olds going back for upskilling or retraining or learning, whatever you want to call it, in the future as we do see our college students right now.
Yeah,
This is going to change. It has to.
and that, well, that brings into two different things. It's not only a, fundamental change in how we're doing
Yes.
things. It's also a psychological change for the, for the culture. It's a culture change because if we can't accept that we're going along, that we're going to have to be a little more progressive in our learning process, meaning that.
Did you use the word progressive?
Yeah, I did.
I never thought you'd get my dad to use the word progressive.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had a moment.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll skip over that real quick here and
We'll
move
send that to your friends.
on. They might draw up a cartoon about it someday.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Sorry, keep going.
Anyhow, the
We're
psychological
gonna have
side.
progress. Yes.
That psychological curve is tough because as as you get older, things want to slow down. You really have a tendency to look at slowing down and not going as fast as you were when you were 25, when you're 50, and you look forward to it. I mean, there's actually a process there. So you're also going to have to learn how to get folks excited about wanting to learn and change at age 50, excited about learning and changing at age 25 is automatic. At 50, it's not automatic. It starts to become a task, with a list of, number of items on below it and what's going to happen, and fundamentally, how are you going to continue to, provide the income during that period, and how that's going to work out and what's going to happen because whatever lifestyle you've chosen, you've built around trying to fund that. And really, most times, when you look at most workers, at least 50% of the country, they're living, paycheck to paycheck, and the reason is a job is a means to an end. And how do we recreate that whole, culture going forward? And that's a difficult task in itself. And I hope that we can foster. I don't think there's many countries out there currently that are doing that. At least, you know more about that than I ever would, but I don't know how many are. There's probably a few smaller countries that, like you have already said, are much more agile than we are because of our size and breadth and types of our diversity in our nation. So maybe you could address that subject a little bit for me.
Sure. So a couple of things. First, I'll start with the last one, which is yes, there are other countries that are doing this. The Nordic countries, no surprise naming them, but you may be
They're small.
surprised. They are small. They are small, but they are forward thinking in this concept, and certainly it flies in the face of this notion that biologically we're slowing down and less motivated, as opposed to a cultural expectation of slowing down, right? So I think that's an important point. The other thing that's happening is some of the nations that are actually behind us in industrialization, such as the continent of Africa and some of the smaller Eastern European as well as Asian countries, because they don't have current infrastructure, they're actually building from scratch, which means they're building great infrastructure from the beginning. And so they are actually setting themselves up for the next 200 years versus what we're trying to do, which is deal with legacy, old systems, and edit, right? It's much easier in some cases to build a house from scratch than it is to take a house from the 1700s and retrofit your air conditioning, your plumbing system, your electrical system, and everything in between. And that's what we're finding in some of these spaces, that they are having an easier time because of that. So what does that mean for us as a nation? It means the competition is going to become much stronger than we are used to. We have traditionally, in many ways, competed against ourselves, and we will be competing globally without exception and against a number of additional nations that previously we were not, because they are going to have this great infrastructure from the get-go. They have the motivation in their culture, and they are being set up for the future. So this is serious business. The second piece is, how do you change the culture to be focused on one that sees a job as an experience and part of a lifestyle instead of a means to an end? And you're probably not going to change that for everybody, but it does mean that education moves from being a knowledge teacher, right? How do you acquire a lot of knowledge, to becoming almost a motivator? I mean, it really reshapes the way we think of education to teach you to be looking for lifelong learning opportunities. So your social, emotional, and physical development become important, but your self-regulation or your interest in continuing to learn is probably more important than any amount of knowledge or information you can gain. There's a ton of studies arguing that, frankly, we don't remember most of what we're taught. But our ability to find that information, our ability to seek it out, our willingness to keep working towards learning is the part that will stick with us or will be our demise. And as a nation, and this is where the federal level of education is different, we are looking at that strategy looking forward to make sure that all our people are ready. Very different concept than getting into a classroom, into the weeds, and telling teachers how to operate. We don't need to do that. Teachers are professionals.
Yeah, I think that I'll, I'll I'll refer to different things that I see happening even today in different sections from our community and even on the local news about rewarding teachers and speaking to how they work and what they do. I think one of the things the federal government, and I think what you're even saying, is they have to be the cheerleader going into this, making sure that everybody is excited about this, and the rewards are great, not only financially, but they're great in a life-fulfilling manner. And so I think those are the things that's a tough job, it, because you have to do it almost without, you can only do it through the media that we have experiencing currently. And if they're not excited, or if they are excited, that's great, because then I think the move will be fast and easy. If they're not
People
excited,
are excited.
I think the people are excited. It's getting that piece just reared up and ready to go. And I think that's where a person like you can motivate from that side and do that is really, going to be instrumental in getting that kind of stuff done. You have met some incredible people. I just want to throw them, and I wanted to do this, and I know I'm babbling again, but I just want to say, wow, thanks to all those folks out there that you've interviewed and spoke with. I mean, I can't remember one. I wasn't, just amazed at what they've experienced, where they've been, what they've done, and what they're doing. Some of them are doing, well, they're all doing great things, but some are just doing these amazing things. And I think I wrote you a quick email the other day about this, convincing everybody that there's a bright future. There's a bright future out there. The sky is not falling. Just don't pay attention to that piece. I mean, the sky is not falling. Chicken Little doesn't need to run around the barnyard screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, because it's not. There's a tremendous amount of effort going into building for the future, and it's across the board. It's across the nation. I'm excited when I see your interviews. I'm excited to see what some of the people, and I bet you're just amazed at how many people, when you pull in, are seeking it out. They really are looking. They're tired of being led around by their nose to being stupid. Did I say that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I will make one caveat. The sky is not falling, but if we don't continue to evolve, it could. Mm-hmm. So in one of my last interviews, we talked with the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for readiness. And I bluntly asked, are we ready? And he bluntly said no. So I do think that we need to recognize and take seriously the need to be ready for the future. I don't think what we need to do is sensationalize it into a fundraising campaign.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think that is the difference between what we're seeing on TV and the latest Democrat debates. There was, I mean, there was a "you can't handle the truth" moment, right? Where one of the candidates yelled out that he was going to confiscate things door to door from people. That that gets into a misuse of power. And one of the things I take very seriously, no matter what the outcome is I took an oath to speak for this country, and I did it for a number of years. And for whatever my statements are worth today, that is the last thing people want to hear. No matter what side, no matter what happened, a misuse of power is very scary and should be taken very seriously. It's not funny,
no, no, it's not.
and we need to be careful about it. Yeah, it's you, there's a lot of folks talk about the volatility in this administration. I don't think that's a secret on either side. I don't think it's something that people shy away from, no matter what their political bend is. Volatility is what is happening, but you don't answer that with more volatility. You don't answer that in a dictatorship fashion.
No, and that's probably one of the saddest parts of this whole situation. And I'm not talking party politics. I'm just talking about the whole
No.
way everything's going along. I think
Yes.
we need to calm down and take just a you know a good look at who we are and what we are. We're a great nation. The experiment is still ongoing.
Yes.
We're learning as we go. If anybody thought it was going to start out perfect, they were insane to begin with. They're assuming, that was not the case. I think the founding fathers were looking for this experiment to grow and prosper and actually learn from itself. And I think we have. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than we would like it to take, and certainly a few lifetimes have tried to. We had some stumbling blocks, there's no question, but that's life. I mean, that's what every person in this that's listening to us, and and I've met, and what you and I have gone through in our own lives and everything like that. Everybody has a struggle, and there's a struggle, and the nation has had some struggles, and there's some that are, we don't need to list them, but we've learned from them. We've grown past some of them. Are all the wounds gone now? I mean, and that might take several more lifetimes for that to occur, but the fact is, at least we progressed. There's things, and people don't always progress. Lots of times people go backwards. So the fact is, if we can continue to progress on certain issues, which helps us grow, and diversity is, I think, going to help that. I think we're growing in that fashion. So a lot of good things said there. Education, again, that goes back to what go back to your educational stimulus and what you want to provide. I think, bang your drum a little bit more about it, because I think the folks that listen to us every week and stuff, and unfortunately we've had a couple of bumps in the road there, so your schedule has been insane, so
It's been insane.
I don't even want to go there. I couldn't even sleep at night if I was going around doing what you're doing. But the fact, bang your drum a little bit about some of the other stuff. I think it's important right now. I think especially after that article, great.
Yeah, I have hardly had even time to digest the declaration. So, to put a kind of bow on this, in order for us to be ready for the future, we absolutely must evolve our education system. In order to do that, we cannot just progress it. We actually have to move it into a future that we're expecting, not just in the 21st century, but set us up for the 22nd century.
Right.
And that's really a reframe and a redo, not just additional rules or policies or regulations. We have to rethink it. The work's been done. We just need to execute it. So my hope is that, as that article does suggest, that there are substantial credentials behind what we're doing and the comments that we're making. My hope is that for the country, again, not for me personally, that gets some traction, because we need to be having that conversation. What are the credentials needed for this job, and what are the credentials we need to evolve the education system? And I will end with just a plug for what's coming. As you mentioned, Dad, it's been really insane. I had a whirlwind week. I'm behind to getting my service strategy out, but it is coming together, and I'm really hoping it's going to be finished very soon. My video for education is already put together, so we want to be able to plug that. But I'm coming up on another week of major travel, and that is being set up in Florida, DC, and Boston to be working towards some of those talking points and more presentations and more connections. You're right. People are noticing. Right after I got the article this morning, I got a private message from someone right here in Pocatello, Idaho, who said, "I just saw your bus, so I looked you up. I'm really impressed, and I hope this goes somewhere." That's meaningful, right? I mean, how many times do you see an advertisement on the side of the road and you go, who's that? What is it? But I get these messages frequently, and they keep me going. So thank you to the individual who sent that out. Shout out to Idaho. This is my first time here, and
Go to
it's
Moscow.
been very welcoming. Well, we'll be heading to Boise in a little bit, but I'm going to, by way of Montana, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and then back to Boise. So
Right.
it's an interesting loop I'm going to be taking here. But things are moving, and this is exciting. And thank you very much, Dad. I will say to you, thank you for being part of this journey. You've been tremendous. And I hope you're standing by, because more work is about to come your way.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
you,
trying
everyone, for joining us.
Yes. All right. You be good. Be safe. And, do you have an interview today with anyone?
No, I don't. I got backlogged with the travels.
Okay.
And so
You did put out a
I-
new schedule, and I haven't looked at it, so I haven't seen where
Yeah.
the dates
Yeah,
have
it's
probably
coming.
changed from the last one I have. So
yes,
I might
yes,
forward those on to the emails I sent out, and
yes,
and I'll try. And I'm going to send out a bunch more. Time has been kind of anyhow constrained, but long story short, we'll get some more out there, and I'm going to really start plugging hard on those issues too to get some more
Great.
stuff done for you. Okay.
I love it. Well, let's get somebody from the education and defense community heard. I think
Yes.
that's a message worth listening to. So
All right,
thank you,
kid.
Dad.
Be good.
See ya.
Love
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Love you too. Bye.